Good afternoon, everyone. It's Chad, and today I want to talk about a few different points that I've seen across some different scopes all over YouTube, different perspectives, and I've always encouraged people's feedback. I've seen a lot of different things lately, and I do want to clear some things up. What I'm seeing more and more, and it's very incorrect, is strength of traits. And Myers-Briggs was never designed to give a strength of trait. So what does this really mean? This means that you can't possibly assume that a particular type, like an INFJ or an INTJ, has a very strong dominant function. Now, naturally, you would think because they use it more, it develops more, but what if they use it in the wrong way? Or what if the environmental circumstances doesn't allow for the use of that function, even though it is their innate preference? For example, what if I like to, let's just say I enjoy shooting pistols, and I would naturally prefer pistols over rifles. And for whatever reason, if I continually shot pistols, but I had never had formal instruction, I never had anything, nobody taught me, I just shoot pistols. Didn't do much research on it, I just preferenced shooting pistols. And I wound up shooting them the wrong way my entire life. Does it mean that I will miss? No, not necessarily, but it may mean that the ability to shoot or my accuracy may be dampened. So what I'm indicating here is Myers-Briggs doesn't relate to intelligence. It's this concept that people believe, oh, I'm an INTJ because my intuition is really strong, or I'm an INFJ because my intuition is really strong and I believe in possibilities for people. Rather, what I'm saying is it's possible to have stupid types of every type, or it's possible to have intelligent types of every type. To me, it seems so base to assume that because you're a certain type, you don't have intelligence. Oh, ESFJs are not intelligent, or ESFPs are not intelligent, or ENFPs are not as intelligent. Now, given that the social standard of what intelligence is, they're naturally going to think you're smart. People in society, that is, naturally going to think you're intelligent if you A, get good grades, and B, you work hard, and C, you fit into systems that they've created for you, so people will naturally assume that you're intelligent. Or if you question. Naturally, if you start questioning things, people are going to think you're an intelligent person. So these are all facades for intelligence, which I don't really care to get into, but my point is Myers-Briggs does not give you strength of traits, which means that you can have an INFJ with underdeveloped intuition. And so with that being said, they can take in data but not be able to perceive enough data, or not develop enough information or take in enough information before they make a swift judgment with their FE, or rather their feeling function, their judgment function. This is in the case of an INFJ. So what I'm indicating here is that people are always assuming that different types have this strong dominant function or the strong auxiliary function, and Myers-Briggs strictly avoids the words strong and weak. You won't be able to find it in any of their documents. It's because it's not a trait-based instrument. It's not a test. It's an indicator. It points you in the right direction of what your type is and the potential blind spots of that type. But it's not going to say, you're weak in this area, or you could be weak in this area. Weakness, it doesn't measure weakness. It measures blind spots, potential pitfalls because of your natural preferences, where you may go and miss something because of a natural preference. What this means is that any type can act like any other type, hence the proper development, the proper education, the proper learning. You can act like another type. Now, here's where it gets questionable. And I say questionable, but that's not even the right word to use. But what I'm saying is, here's where the challenge is when people start acting like other types, is what toll does it play on you? If you're naturally a pistol person, can not using pistols anymore eventually stress you out? Maybe, and that's a very weak example, but there's a lot of indicators that you could be, that if you're not using your natural preferences, then what kind of toll is acting like another type playing on you? So really it's getting in touch with who you are, developing your strengths, and being able to flex, because what makes a good leader is not a certain type. It's not that, you're efficient because you're an ENTJ, or you're inefficient because you're INFP, or even an ENFJ because your thinking function is inferior. That's ridiculous. any type can learn to be organized. Any type can learn to be, efficient. And I think it's really an unfortunate circumstance that we're judging other people and we're placing labels on people as Myers-Briggs enthusiasts. Hey, you must be an ISTP because you don't have this particular trait, or you must be an ISTP because you have no feelings. To me, it's frustrating because you don't know what someone is and what they preference naturally. Maybe they're filling a role. Maybe they're that way at work and they're filling a role. They're trying to accomplish something you don't know. So my real big point is, don't try to type people. If you try, you're going to fail because you don't know the facets of that person really well. You don't know what that person's natural preferences is. Maybe they've learned to be a certain way, even though that's not who they really are. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know their understanding of themselves. You don't know where they're at in life. You don't know what stresses they're going through. They could be in the grip, is what Myers-Briggs calls it, when your inferior function is erupting into the dominant psyche. So it could be a number of things that are going on with that person, and to type somebody like that, it's challenging. The best way to get someone's type is to be, again, officially typed. It's to work with a practitioner who's going to help that person walk through the prospect of helping the person identify their type. Myers-Briggs is based on the client actually determining their best fit type based on what they believe to be their own natural preferences, not what label we've put on someone else because we've believed somebody to act a certain way. To me, that's insane. And it's really based because it's judging. You're judging people based on what you've seen on the surface, and you got to remember, an INTP, you may not know they're an INTP. You may see an ENFP. You may see an ENTP because you see that extroverted intuition because that's what's extroverted. Okay, that introverted thinking, you're not going to see it. You're not going to see it projected into the real world. So what does that tell you? You can't see that introverted world. How are you typing these people? So the real good understanding of understanding how people are typed is understanding what their natural preferences are, and then really just talking with that person and understanding that person versus saying, oh, you must be a, if someone thinks they're an intuitive and let's say that you have a preference for intuition and someone else has a preference for sensing, but they claim they have a preference for intuition, then maybe they do have a preference for intuition. You can't argue that, okay? Maybe they don't have the IQ to make it look like, they have a preference for intuition or sensing or whatever you're arguing with, but ultimately it is you can't possibly judge that. I think that people of all types are intelligent. And then there's people of all types who are unintelligent. So it's important to disassociate intelligence with certain types. It's important to remove these biases that you have to be a certain way. I have to fill various roles in my life, and those various roles cause stress on me. And they're not who I am naturally. They're not my natural preferences, but I have to do them. So does that mean I act like an ENTJ throughout my entire life? No. I have to fulfill different roles. I have to fulfill those different preferences. I can't possibly walk into my occupation and just start giving orders without considering the sensitivities of other people. It actually damages the business. It damages rapport. It damages relationships. I can't do that. So I'm not going to say, oh, that's because my feeling is inferior and I'm not worried about it. You just have to understand that's the way I am. No, it's understanding that my natural preference is extroverted thinking, but introverted feeling and even extroverted feeling are such low preference on my chart that I've worked to develop those functions in order to use them. But yes, they do cause stress at times because it's not my natural preference. With that being said, you have to have that firm understanding that that's what we're trying to accomplish with MBTI, is to get people to understand natural preferences, not strength of traits. I feel like I have a really strong intuition. So when you go on to cognitive tests online and test your TI or TE or FE or FI or whatever else you're testing on there, they're testing the strength of traits, which to me that's not what you're supposed to be testing to identify your type, because you can't test strength of traits because there's so many facets of that. Could you really, if you have a firm understanding of introverted intuition, just that function in itself is almost mystical in a lot of ways. It's so complex. You can't possibly measure if one person has a stronger introverted intuition than another person. I mean, we're not even there yet. So the idea is just getting a firm understanding that what MBTI is natural preferences. Anyway, thank you.